The HomeTech podcast is supported by you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the HomeTech podcast for Friday, April 17th. From Sarasota, Florida, I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffin. How you doing, Seth?
Pretty good. How are you holding up, Jason? Week 4 of the lockdown.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I think like everyone, I have my good days and my bad days. You know, it's generally speaking, I don't have really anything to complain about. Everyone I know is still healthy. Knock on wood. Work is busy as ever, so that's great. But yeah, man, it's a tough time. Glenn Keegan shared, I thought, an interesting in the hub this week. I made a note of this because he shared a screenshot. It looks like it was taken off of Facebook or something. And I think this was a friend of his that used to be a probation officer. And she was a home detention specialist. So she managed people who were staying in their homes up to a year. And she just talks about like sort of this pattern that she saw like over and over again, right? So first 2 weeks, bit of a novelty, settling in, doing lots of odd jobs around the house, getting used to the restrictions, blah, blah, blah. And by week 3, she says, this is the key. Happened pretty much like clockwork. A real malaise hit, acute confinement depression. This was a week I really had to watch as people would all cope with it differently. Real despair and feeling like a loss of their entire world. Defeat would set in. Now, I'm certainly not that far on the spectrum, thankfully, but I just thought it was interesting. Like, I can totally feel that sort of cycle, right? Like the first couple of weeks were kind of like a novelty, and that.
What did you see? Did you see week 4?
Week 4, adapting. Penny would drop about all the new opportunities that presented themselves. Creative minds start mapping out a more productive future. Self-improvement. Yeah, totally.
I thought that was interesting. Like that could be pretty cool. Like I think we're going to see a lot of. I think we talked about this a little bit before. Like the events, we're going to see a lot of like Infocom today announced that they were going to do a virtual Infocom. Like.
Yeah.
Okay. That we're going to see the world change quite a bit. Last night we were doing our homeowners meeting and one of the people asked, do you think when they open this back up, is everybody going to rush out and go to a restaurant? I'm like, no, probably not. Probably going to just stay at home and keep getting to go or curbside because that seems to, I don't know. That's my worry is that like, not that I'm going to get sick, but I'm going to get someone in my family sick or someone that we have here. That is near us. That like my Erica's grandmother's still alive. She's like in her 90s and has like pneumonia every year. So it's like highest risk ever. And there's no way I would want to get it and then somehow transmit to her as well. So
yeah, it's crazy. So, someone I know, remain nameless, grandmother had it, 85, got COVID and came through it.
Nice. Yeah.
At least so far. So they thought she was going to be okay. And that's like, yeah, there's just such a spectrum with this virus. Like some people get it and are totally asymptomatic. And then others, it's obviously fatal. And that just is so, it's mind boggling.
Right.
Right. But I agree. I mean, I think that, like I said, I've had some good days and some bad days. I think generally on balance, we've had mostly good days. And for me, as we've talked about on the show, Seth, I think for both of us, really, we've worked from home full time. So there wasn't a huge adjustment there. It's just more of the broader picture that's kind of nagging in the back of my mind. But I totally feel the other side of that, like you said, that week 4 there of like, there are going to be opportunities that come out of this is really going to shake things up. And, silver linings, connecting more with friends, doing more FaceTime calls with people I haven't talked to in years. That's great. So there are certainly some good things, but lots to worry about right now. And just trying to keep that all in perspective.
So silver linings that been taking note of here and there. I mean, have you seen the pollution graphs? They're like super low now. Like people are like, oh, we can see the sky in LA. It's like just like there are small silver linings that are out there for this. So
there definitely are.
Just kind of have to keep your eye on those, and then kind of, I don't know. The worst part that this is kind of like, I don't know if this is like conceited or whatever, but like I need a haircut, Jason. Like I hadn't realized like I forgot, like I had just gotten a haircut before like the lockdown went into place, and we were talking about what we're going to do for spring break and like where we're going to travel to, and maybe we go to Orlando, maybe we go down to Naples, maybe take a cruise because those seem to be cheap. And it's like, no, wait, like literally the day after that, like everything started to hit the fan. Like it was just kind of dominoes up to like that week of spring break. And now looking back at that conversation and how absurd it was for us to be having it at that point. And then like I looked on my calendar the other day, it was like haircut day, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're, and I called them up and they just weren't even open. They were like, we're closed until further notice.
Right.
And
right.
yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, that's going to be like, I'm going to have to get the old Flowbee out or something. What I have to do to cut my hair. I don't know.
I saw an article, and I'll see if I can find it here, but yeah, it was like barbers were literally doing like video calls to walk you through how to cut your own hair or something. And I was like, just don't know how that's going to work. Now it's easy if you're like me and you're basically bald.
Yeah, there's a little bit less to worry about.
So talk about silver linings.
Yeah,
right.
There you go. See, there's always a silver lining.
You just break the clippers out every week or so, and I'm good. I get it though, man. My son is in desperate need of a haircut.
I think get the old bowl out of the cupboard and like take the clippers and just go around and like there you go.
Oh yeah, well that would have been done weeks ago if it were up to me. That one didn't quite get by the committee.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, my daughter has a full set of hair, and she goes every time we talk about. My wife and I were talking about me getting a haircut, and my daughter's like, "Can I get a haircut?" It's like, "No, you're not getting a haircut anytime soon."
Right. Well, did you get your stimulus check?
Yeah. I'm ready to retire now, and I think I'm just gonna sell the house here and
Catalina wine mixer.
Go to the Catalina wine mixer. It's helicopter money.
Well, I frequent this new site that we talked about. Custom AV News has got all the best.
The fake news site.
The best news. No, it's fake. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Here's the latest headline. Dealer blows family's entire stimulus check on B-stock gear for his home that he'll never install.
Oh, man.
I don't think there's anything fake about that, because like there is a dealer out there who will do that.
Yeah, it's kind of... Yeah. Are they following me around or something? I have a full NetStream system in my closet.
Right.
Yeah. Just like old gear that is sitting in my house is ridiculous. I have a bunch of stuff. And like I opened a box today and I found one of like the version 1 Control 4 remote, like the one with the black buttons that weren't even backlit. Like it was literally the worst remote, System 1 remote they ever made. And I'm like, why do I have this? And I'm like, oh, I could probably put this in the museum. But like, why I have a bunch of other stuff is kind of in that same vein. Like, why do I have boxes and boxes of this stuff? It just needs to go.
Right.
60-inch Pioneer Elite Plasma. Yeah, just hang on to that one, buddy.
I was just looking at that.
It only goes up in value.
Yes. This is Greg Williamson, Alpha Home Theater. They never made a better picture than they did on those sets. Everyone who installs TVs knows that.
It's true. It's true.
Wise use of stimulus dollars there.
There is a theme amongst installers where they have this nostalgia over like this old equipment, the Pioneer Elites, the Fujitsu Aviamos. It's just they were nice sets at the time, but I think like even the most basic OLED or LED TV probably does a better job than those were. I think it's just the nostalgia,
right,
of having one of those and having the name behind it. At the time, I don't know. The Pioneers were nice looking sets.
They were very nice. What was it? Curo? Was that the Pioneer, or was that?
Yeah, Kuro. Yeah. That sounds familiar. Yeah, they had that piano black.
The good
finish.
old days.
It was nice. The big giant bezel, 5-inch bezel around.
That's right.
Yeah,
500 pounds.
Yeah,
hoisting it up over the fireplace.
We used to make jokes back when we sold those the Sony Trinitron TVs. It's like, well, yeah, they actually take the TV and they put about 300 pounds of lead in the bottom there. It's like, those things were heavy.
It's a feature.
Yeah, they want you to know.
That's right.
So Jason, I got something to ask you about. Over in the hub, you made an appearance earlier this week, and you made a shocking revelation here. And I got a question about this. You said that you were using Notion.io, and you were thinking that it was going to upset Trello. What's going on with that?
I know. And the jury's still out on that, Seth. I just want to say, and I had a hard time even writing that message because you know me and Trello, we're tight.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on. This is week 3. You never know. This is week 3.
I thought that might that might land like a bomb in the hub, but I just had to say, like, and I'm still very much using Trello, but I started using this Notion.so software.
.so. I thought it was IO, but no, it's SO.
Yeah,
IO is actually a home automation product. I was just on the website. I'm like, this is
Notion. Notion.so is the domain name, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience who have heard of this. I may be kind of a latecomer here, but really neat piece of software. It's a little bit hard to describe. There's a couple of pieces of software out there that I think are kind of similar. Coda.io is another one that I sense. I haven't used Coda, but I sense it's a similar concept where it's Notion.so is a very, they call it an all-in-one workspace. And the idea is, of course, they've got a web interface, or they've got like an OS 10 app that I have installed. And you get kind of on the left-hand side, you get just a nav bar where you can stack and nest. And they're basically all just pages. And it's like a blank canvas almost, where you can just create pages and you can nest them like infinitely within other pages. But each page that you create can be like a bunch of different things. So tables, they've got Kanban boards, lists, calendars, galleries, all sorts of different templates. And so it really just becomes a very flexible way to sort of organize information. And I think in this day and age, many of us are very much knowledge workers at this point, and there's just so much information to organize. And I've found it so far a very useful way to do that, and highly flexible. So I think it's one of those things that if you're looking for a place to just put stuff, right, that's very flexible, and you can kind of make your own, make something that works for you in terms of how to organize information, go give this a look. It's a really neat tool.
Yeah, I've used Coda before. One of the things I don't like about Coda is that actually I'm a heavy user of Airtable, believe it or not. So I use that quite a bit. But one thing I don't like about it is pretty much always most of what you can do is in the browser. Like, you don't have the ability to go and have custom views on the iOS apps. Like, it's just basically a giant table and you have to run filters on it. But this looks like more like in line with Coda, but I think it has a couple of features that Coda doesn't, or maybe does. I don't know. But this looks really nice and clean. I really like what they've done here. Can you do formulas in here? Can you do like reference formulas and reference? Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah, I think you. I'm 99% sure you can do some of that. So like database and queries and things. That's more advanced than I've gotten, certainly so far. Honestly, one of the main uses that I started with is I've always been a big note taker, and a lot of times, like, I don't even go back and necessarily look at all of my notes, but I find that if I just take notes during meetings and jot stuff down as it pops into my head, like, I retain the information a lot better. And so I've set up just a very simple kind of nested structure of like little notepads that are associated with various projects that I'm working on. And it's just really useful for me because in the position that I work in, like many of us, I'm just getting lots of little pieces of information thrown at me, like constantly. An idea here, or sort of a bug report there, or like a to-do here and there. And just having like, that's always been a struggle for me. It's like, okay, information flying at me. I have 2 minutes between meetings. Where do I put this? And Notion gives me a really flexible way to just manage knowledge and information. And that's been the biggest thing for me. I haven't done a ton of, like if you go to their website, you'll see like to-do lists and things like that are very more tactical in nature. And I'm really using it more right now as kind of a personal knowledge management tool.
Yeah,
But it's pretty
flexible enough. You could use it for literally everything. Like you could use this as like a complete project management system if you wanted to, between like an entire team. It looks
Definitely.
like so. Yeah, pretty cool, and it's free to start with. It looks like, and then when you do a lot, it costs you $4 a month for a person, and then
super affordable. We've got a paid plan at work. We've had several folks at work using it for quite a while, and they were trying to get me to come around to it. And
you were just like, you're not dragging me away from Trello.
Yeah. I finally caved. And so I don't know. I'm in between software right now. I think they'll probably both end up with a role in sort of my own personal system, because I still use Trello as a very visual way to organize stuff. But I don't know. Like Notion has Kanban boards built right into it. So I may eventually migrate everything over there. And I just never thought I'd hear myself say this, Seth. It feels like a breakup.
Well, Trello is a very good basic. I wouldn't even say basic. You can do a lot of advanced things with it, but it's a very good open-ended, structured way to organize things, right? Like it's very basic in what it can do, but and at the same time, it can be very, since it's so basic, it's so flexible and powerful. You could use it for anything. We use it actually for the back end of our show, so you and I can kind of like edit show notes and that kind of thing. But like I ran an entire company off a Trello board for like 2 years. The whole company was on it. We would all have little logins. We'd go in there, make comments on the job cards, and like move them to the stage of the job they needed to be on. You could look at the history of the card and see who moved it and when they moved it and what they said about the job at the time, and post checklists and all sorts of, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you could do with that. And the fact that it's in like every technician's hands in the company and in the owners and like the project managers and the sales, like everybody at a glance could just open up their app on their phone and look at the status of a job without having to pick up the phone and stop somebody from working to find out what's going on. Like you could say, oh, well, they're halfway done with this job because like 6 of the things are checked off, you know? So like,
right.
Yeah, it was a great piece of software for that. We did run it up against its limits, I think. And it was to the point where I was like, man, I wish this integrated with this, and this. And I would, I wrote a couple of custom scripts between like some service tracking things that we decided worked better for deploying service calls and that kind of thing. But other than that, like I guess what it didn't have was like a CRM attached to it. Like it doesn't have that. But other than like, if we had just kept it, as a job board, I think it would have been perfect. Like, everybody loved using it. It was simple to teach and deploy across different platforms. Like it was bring your own device for phones at our office. So I had iPhone, one of the technicians had an Android, one of the owners had an Android. So it's like, it didn't really matter what device you had. You just showed up and were able to load the Trello app and go.
Right. And I think it's interesting because Trello and Notion both have this in common where they're very much like blank canvases. And I personally love that because I'm a total geek for sort of productivity and software and stuff like this. And so I really enjoy getting in and just constantly being able to tinker with how I have things set up and constantly looking for little ways to optimize. And as the type of work that I'm engaged in changes organically over time, week to week, month to month. I love systems that allow me to just continually optimize. I've seen a flip side of that coin where certain people that I've tried to proselytize about Trello to, I've seen them sort of get stuck on that, right? Because they crave more of like, just tell me how to organize this and where to put stuff. So I think that's a double-edged sword with any tool like this. Notion has a ton of templates and stuff you can pick from. I don't tend to use a lot of those templates because, again, I'm like, I just really enjoy tweaking stuff. So every now and then I'll use a template just to spark an idea or maybe get started. But you got to come in, I think, to these pieces of software with that mindset of like, I'm going to continually tinker and optimize.
And Notion, you kind of have to be that way, right? So like,
Right.
it's so open-ended and such a large, like, yeah, start with the template but Trello, you don't have to start with that. You can start with a 3-column board, like, or 2. You could say to do and done, and
Right.
as you finish the card, you just move it over and track it that way. And I think we started off like that. Like we started to do, doing, done, that kind of thing. And it expanded into this like screen wide presentation mode. You'd put it up on the big screen at the office on Monday for our stand-up meetings and just kind of like walk down each job. What's the status? Boom, 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 boom. And we'd be done. And it was just such an easy, like, in and out type operation. Those meetings, which could have lasted an hour if we were going by paper and folders and that kind of thing, were like 15 minutes. We were just like in and out. And at the beginning of the week, everybody kind of had marching orders for, a first couple of days, and knew what at least they would be doing for the rest of the week, I think that was great, because once you get your guys like in the mindset of like, they're not just coming in for today, like they're going to come in today, 5:00 rolls around, they're home. Like if they're thinking like, oh yeah, and Friday I've got to go to that job that needs those speakers, they're at least going to be thinking about that all week. And sometimes, I'm not saying every time, but sometimes something clicks in their head and they're like, I need to do something extra. And then like, that's one less thing that you have to worry about. Making sure it ends up on the truck. Those speakers need to be on the truck on Friday, and it's something you don't have to load up, but they'll actually be able to take some agency and take care of them themselves.
Yeah. There's a whole conversation we could have there about that idea of agency and how, these sorts of tools properly set up can really facilitate additional ownership, and lots of direct experience with that in terms of my years project managing and stuff. So, it's interesting. I think that, again, go take a look at Notion. It's a pretty cool piece of software. If you're a nerd for this stuff like me, it's definitely worth trying out the free version and kicking the tires on it.
I just posted a video of from Thomas Frank. They kind of run like a video production. Every YouTuber these days is running a video production company. So
that's right.
He basically is showing off his Notion board for tracking the projects. And then within each project, like what shots they're going to take, the B-roll files, that kind of thing, all within Notion. So I thought it's like a super powerful example of what you could do with Notion, kind of on the extreme. And then like what you're saying, just like using it for capture, I captured this note at this time, and getting something down. And that's the other extreme. Like it just can be to a place that you trust to put data into, and it stays there for you to come back and take care of later.
Well, that's just been the gateway drug for me, right? Like I as soon as I started doing that was when I realized like, oh, okay, I started to understand what Notion was all about. And it was kind of like that light bulb moment of like, okay, I see. Super flexible. You can get in here and do a ton with it. So yeah, it's cool. I'm a fan. I don't know. Sorry, Trello. I'm eyeing other software. This is my confession.
Jason's eyes are wondering.
I have wondering eyes. That's right. Never thought this day would come.
It's kind of wild because we're close to we're rolling around to episode 300, and I think I know I was using Trello before you, because I know I said, hey, have you seen this? And then I
think you were the one who turned me on to it.
I'm the drug pusher, and because I think I was already kind of using it to track my jobs, and I was like, hey, we could just use Trello, and we got into it and we started using it, and now it's like I think it's embedded into both of our brains, where like we almost can't do a show without having little Trello cards in front of us.
That's right. That's right. All right, cool. Well, that's fun, man. I could talk about that stuff all day long, but what do you say we jump into some HomeTech headlines?
Let's do it.
Last week, HBO announced that it would pull its HBO Now and HBO Go apps from older Apple TV devices on April 30th. Now it's reversing that decision, at least for the time being. An HBO spokesperson told Engadget that HBO Now will remain on the second and third gen Apple TVs until May 15th. And that HBO Go will be available for a few additional months.
Nothing like not being able to rip that Band-Aid off.
Well, they said the spokesperson goes on to say the spokesperson said that the decision to pull the popular streaming apps from the second and third gen Apple TVs was, quote, business as usual, device deprecation that had been planned for several months, which of course I believe. I'm sure this was in the making for a while, but some bad optics here, given the timing and everybody staying at home. And so I don't think this would have been a big deal. We talked about this last week. Go buy like a $30 Chromecast or something, or whatever. Roku has some dirt cheap devices that can do HBO. But ultimately, I think this was a good move.
Well, and they're both going to be going away soon anyway. Like they're not going to be a compelling program after May when HBO Max launches. Yeah, I was just looking up. HBO is expected to launch their Max service in May for $15 a month. So that's got like a ton more. It's got not only the HBO stuff that you're going to get on Now and Go, but it also has like all the Warner Media catalog built into it.
Right.
So like it's a massive amount of programming for $15 a month. I think for $5 more, like it's a no-brainer to pick this up.
Right.
So I think they're going to slowly be making the Go and Now services less and less attractive, and phasing them out over time. And this is one way to do that. It's like on these super old devices, to phase them out. Unfortunately, the way the world is sitting right now, it probably isn't the best time to put your customers through that if they need to go out and get a new device to replace their older 10-year-old Apple TVs that they've been using.
Yeah, definitely.
Smart ring maker Oura has teamed up with West Virginia University's Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute to try to predict the spread of COVID-19 in healthcare providers. By combining wearables with AI prediction model, the researchers can currently predict symptoms like fever, cough, and fatigue 24 hours before onset. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this one was interesting. I threw this one in here because while it's not home tech proper, I'm just interested in use cases for wearables that go beyond sort of novelty. And this one jumped out at me. Like I frankly, I didn't, I'm not shocked by this, but I didn't necessarily realize that wearable rings had advanced to the point where, you could actually use them for something like this to detect fever and cough 24 hours before their onset. I don't know how that works. But it's interesting. It says the University of California, San Francisco has been carrying out a similar study, which also uses Oura rings and an algorithm to track the vitals of 2,000 emergency medical workers. So these sorts of studies are going on in multiple places, and I just think that's pretty cool. Cool stuff to know about as far as the state of wearables right now.
These things are these Oura rings. I was just on their website looking at them. They're sold as a sleep tracking health appliance. Like everybody likes to track their sleep because no one sleeps properly. And no one sleeps enough. I know I sure don't these days. Like 2 or 3 hours a night, I'm down to. So,
really?
It's getting rough. That's what I'm missing out on. Like I'm playing parent all day, and then it's like go to work. And some nights, last couple of days, 2-3 hours.
I don't know how you're still standing.
I don't either. So yeah, it's like I feel like I'm in college now, and I'm not in college.
I went like 3 nights in a row last week where I only got like maybe a little less than 6 hours.
Yeah.
And by the 4th night, I was like, oh my God, kids go to bed and I'm going like straight to sleep. I'm so tired. And I slept for like 10 hours.
It's not healthy. I can tell you that. I can tell you it's definitely not a healthy decision.
I break down.
Well, there are a couple of times during the day that I can like lay down, like when Rose is supposed to go take her nap or whatever, I can go lay down and close my eyes for a couple of seconds here and there. So, and then like after the podcast here, I could lay down and take a nap and then wake back up and do some work up until like or early hours in the morning when it's quiet, and then back up. And the problem is like I've been saying, like she wakes up at 7:30 every morning like clockwork. So yeah, she's got it figured out. So these things are $299. That's pricey. Yeah. So did you see their Apple and Google both teamed up to do something similar? That they're going to do it's kind of been in the news, but anonymous contact tracing. So if your phone's going to have like a anonymous, this kind of goes back to the beacon technology that we kind of talked about a long time ago. your phone will have these Bluetooth beacons on it, and they will have a serial number associated with them that is like on a rotating basis. Every 20 minutes that your serial number changes. And what happens is like if there is if somebody has once they have all this in place, if somebody does catch COVID, the coronavirus or whatever, I can't remember what's what now. They will be able to trace who you've been close to or where you've been hanging out with people based on your phone. So your phone's near somebody for a couple minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. Your phone will record all those serial numbers and say, back at this point in time, I was near this phone that had this serial number. Well, Apple knows those serial numbers and Google will know those serial numbers, but your phone won't know from anybody. And they can go back and see the history of how things spread. This isn't for like now. This is for like phase 2 of the COVID-19 outbreak. So basically further down the road. And I think they're just starting to do like tests on this right now in the UK. So it'll be interesting to see. What I've noticed about this whole COVID thing is like, this has got to be the most like scrutinized, data rich environment to have this type of outbreak. Like never in the history of the world have we had so much data and so much available to us, information, whether it be good or bad, available to us at any given time. And I think it's going to take decades for researchers to go through and look at things like this Oura ring data and put it all together and say, well, with this we had 30% more. Like somebody was posting the other day, like there's Apple Maps usage in France or in Sweden or something like that. Like they had all the search queries, like just when the country shuts down, it's like the search queries just like bomb, like to the bottom of basically zero. Between Sweden and Spain. There's a really cool graphs to see, like all this data that's out there that of things that you just wouldn't. I mean, I guess you put 2 and 2 together, you probably think about it, but like I wouldn't think like people are doing less map searching. But yeah, that makes sense because everybody's home on lockdown.
Yeah, you don't necessarily connect those dots right away, but it makes sense. I like it. I think that I heard can't remember where I heard about this, but in China apparently like. This is like, it's a different world over there. And don't quote me on any of this, but it was something like everyone had like some QR code or something, like you're assigned like this code that's basically like your digital identifier. And when like COVID came and people were like having to check in like everywhere they went. And, it's creepy like 1984 stuff, but what it allowed them to do is very quickly, like as soon as somebody had it, they could immediately sort of notify everybody who had been in the same vicinity as that person was the idea. And I think if there are ways to do that are more that are respectful of personal privacy, that's really cool. Like it's a great idea, and I think it has to be part of the mix. Especially, there seems to be a general consensus that this may be a 2-wave, second wave of this. In the fall, and so hopefully we can be more prepared that second time around to more quickly contain and take that approach where I forget the term for it, but instead of having to do massive lockdowns, it's more of a more targeted approach, but it's all predicated on data.
Good data, right. You need to know where the outbreaks are. You need to know. I mean, that's kind of like where we're stuck here in the States is we don't really have testing in place to figure out who is sick and who's not on time. And without that, it's kind of like, well, we don't know who's sick. Everybody stay home. That's just where it is. So,
right. Definitely.
Well, back to the home tech news. Off the medical stuff.
I know. Yeah, quite a transition here to IKEA blinds. But we'll make it work. You can't visit an IKEA store right now due to the pandemic, but you won't. Look, they made the transition easier. Due to the pandemic, but you won't be missing out on the company's connected devices as a result. Shoppers on Reddit and 9to5Mac have noticed that IKEA has started selling its Fjortur smart blinds. Don't know how I did on the pronunciation there, Seth. Online in the U.S. several months after they were initially limited to in-person customers. So if you've been waiting for these to be available online, now's your time.
I'm gonna have to. I have not been waiting on these, but they're such a like 179 for a 23 by 76 3/4 inch blind. I mean, the pricing on these is incredible, and I haven't been waiting on them, but I have like this this window in my garage that would be nice to have like a some, push a button and raise up something, and then push a button and put it down so it kind of blocks out the light. Because I'm out here a lot, and it's kind of dark in the garage and lonely, and unless I'm able to open the garage door, which I'm not these days, because Jason, believe it or not, it is like 85 here, feels like 98.
I heard. I was talking to a partner in Florida today. He said it was in the 90s, and I just cringed.
It's ridiculous. So like I can't open the garage door. We had a couple of weeks of good weather where it's like, yeah, you guys are freezing, ha ha ha, and now it's back to the good old muggy bog weather. Yeah,
man,
it feels like
I got to tell you, I'll take freezing over that 8 days a week.
It's 750 here, and I just checked it. 83 degrees out. Feels like 92. So it's
and in Seth's garage feels like 105.
it can feel pretty hot out here, but within this, like I do have the little small air conditioner, and I have a fan that runs. But I don't know. I may end up back inside. Like last summer, I was like, I can't take this. I'm gonna go. Ended up back inside, working inside. So depending on how the COVID thing goes, I don't know. I may be setting up somewhere inside.
I just want everybody to take a minute to appreciate that Seth is often doing these shows in like 100-degree garage on like 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah, that's
dedication
right there.
That's dedication. We appreciate it, Seth.
No problem. Well, speaking of new products, Ecobee has launched a new smart camera. Well, they're obviously calling it the smart camera because that's what else would you call it? It's an indoor security camera called the smart camera, $179. The device actually is just one piece of a new home security initiative the company is calling Haven. In addition to the smart camera, Ecobee is also introducing a smart sensor, which they call smart sensor, for doors and windows, and a combination entrance and motion sensor that's not unlike Google's Nest Detect. The smart sensors, because what else would you call those, would be sold in packs of 2 for $79, and both are available for purchase starting today. Pretty cool little device. I thought the camera looked pretty nice for an indoor camera. And this is Ecobee's first swing at this, so they still do a pretty good job on the design of their product.
Yeah. The Haven Security Service. Let's see. It includes monitoring, automatic arming and disarming, and 14 days of cloud storage for one camera. Starts at $5 a month. $10 per month option is available, and that provides storage for unlimited cameras. And both tiers have 30-day trials available.
Yeah, it seems like it's like one of those out of the gate. It's not like a Simply Safe thing or
like it's self-monitoring.
Yeah, it's self-monitoring. It's not going to call the authorities or fire department if something goes off in your house, but I guess you will get a notification that somebody's walking through the door. One thing on this, the smart camera actually doubles as an Alexa endpoint. I think is kind of what we would call them, which allows you to yell at the camera and do things on Amazon, which is kind of cool. And it's also HomeKit compatible, and they say SmartThings and Google Assistant support are coming in the near future. So, $179 for a HomeKit compatible camera. That, I don't know, seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. There was the there's this other HomeKit camera, Eufy, I think is how you pronounce it. EUFY.
Yeah. Better resolution, 2K resolution.
I can't remember what the price was on that one, but yeah, $179. This is like Eufy Indoor Cam 2K, MSRP $40. So,
and if you want a pan tilt zoom or a pan tilt, it's $49.99.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about these cameras, but there are some cheaper options. But Ecobee's got I think kind of a good name behind them as far as a brand, and can probably justify a little bit of a premium. And these things are always kind of, I feel like you get what you pay for types of deals. So I don't know, this is kind of cool. I didn't I didn't necessarily see Ecobee making this move into security, but seems to make sense. It seems like they're coming out of the gate with a pretty comprehensive offering here.
One other thing I noticed from Ecobee, and I don't have this in my notes here, but I do remember that they sent out this email like within the last week or two. And I think they're calling it Ecobee filters. And what they'll do is basically, Ecobee filters. If you search for that on Google, you'll go to Ecobee air filters. And what they'll do is you can sign up for they have a couple sizes of filters. And basically, there is tracking on your Ecobee thermostat where you can put in when you're supposed to change your filters. But they will actually send you new filters when you're supposed to change them out, starting from $13. So you don't have to run out to the store and buy one, or do what I do and forget that they're there. But unfortunately, they didn't have my size when I looked at them last. So I may have to check it again.
Got it. Yeah, they don't seem to be super kitschy in the marketing department over there at Ecobee. Very straightforward names. At least you know what they're selling you.
Yeah, Ecobee air filters.
No interpretation required. I like it.
No. I think this is a smart idea. I can't think of another home automation thermostat company, smart thermostat company that has come out with this idea to also sell, consumables. It's like there's a razor model with this, right?
That's right.
But filters are one thing for your air conditioning. I come from an air conditioning background. My dad has been in air conditioning as long as I've been alive. Filters is one thing that you can do for your air conditioning system to keep it healthy. And if your filter's dirty, it actually decreases the performance of it and kind of puts stress on the unit. You're supposed to change them out, and I forget all the time. This is such a great idea. I don't know why other thermostat companies haven't thought of doing something like this, because it seems like Ecobee probably just teamed up with some random filter manufacturer, got a bunch of these in stock, and all they have to do is basically sign you up, get your credit card number, and ship these things out every couple months.
Right. Cool stuff. All right. Well, we'll see how this develops. All the links and topics that we've discussed on our episode this week can be found in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/ you ready for this, Seth? $2.99.
Woo. Yeah.
While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which includes even further analysis and other occasional updates and show reminders here from the world of home tech. Once again, that link is HomeTech.fm/299.
And don't forget, you can join us live in Wednesday in our chat room starting sometime between 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more about that at HomeTech.fm/live.
We got a good pick of the week this week, Seth. This one came to me from one of our partners over at One Vision, and this is the classic, the classic scenario. We're a family-friendly show, so we're gonna have to sort of self-censor here. But
you know what happened last time you said that? I actually bleeped you, and it totally sounds like you said the word.
So I don't know. Maybe it's better if I just say it. I'm not sure. But anyways, it's got a 3-gang light box here with the classic, labels on the light switches that we've all seen 100 times before. The middle one, straightforward office chandelier. The one on the right and the one on the left, no clue.
What's funny is, and I don't know how this, I want to know the backstory, because I think when I'm programming a Control 4 lighting system and I have no idea, that's pretty much what I write down for the load value. So maybe the installer was just really tired. Well, and those notes from Control 4 from the composer, you can actually export those notes to go straight to a PO to be purchased for the engravings. So
that's a good way to check, see if anyone's, proofreading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this fully automated? We'll find out.
It evidently was. I don't know what's going on here. This is it's a very interesting picture because it shows red lights on top too, which means that all three of those have gone into default and aren't working. But I don't know. I'd like to really know the backstory on this one, because it's either a joke or it was a technician typing those in to be ordered that way, which is great.
That's right. I'm just going to pretend that it was somebody actually mindlessly put this up at a client's house because it's funnier that way.
Yeah. That's great. But so true. sometimes you walk up to the light switches, you're flipping them and you're like, what is this? Could this even possibly go to? And you're taking out like the little checker thing and plugging it into the wall. Nope, doesn't do that. And, these electricians, they'll put a 3-gang box in and like 3 switches, and only one of them will ever be hooked up to anything. It's wild.
So there you go. We can all relate to this one.
Yeah, no, I totally see how this could have happened at any install.
For sure. All right. Well, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, obscene pics of the week that we have to censor on the show, ideas for a show topic or guest, give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, or visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form.
And we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. If you want to help out without, these days, times are tough, so we totally understand that. If you do want to help us out, support the show, but can't financially do that, we'd appreciate a 5-star review on iTunes or positive rating in the podcast app of your choice.
Absolutely. Seth, I think that does it for us this week.
Another quarantine week down. I tell you, I don't know about you, but they're kind of flying by for me now. Like, I'll look up. It's already Wednesday. I know it'll be Friday pretty quickly. I don't know. Things are moving too fast for me right now. Like it was slow maybe the first week or two, but now I am tired of the 30-second weekends. I want the weekends to be longer, but
no doubt.
Everything else is just flying by.
It feels like time is sort of distorting.
Yeah.
Right? Like the days feel really long, but then I'm like, wow, it's been over a month. And I was going back and I was looking at, I have like a daily journaling habit, and I was looking back at my journal from, late February, early March, and it's like, man, that was like a different world.
Yeah.
We're still talking about at that time, like a wedding that we were going to go to in May and all these things that now just seem so far removed. So it's kind of crazy. It does some weird things to your perception of time, I feel like.
Right. Yeah. And my daughter's been taking swim lessons since she was tiny, and like they emailed us like, hey, you guys want to come back? We're doing like, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel bad. For small local businesses. Like it's so tough.
It's got to be. I mean, it's got to be extremely tough on the entire. I mean, we're nothing but a service economy, right? Like there is really not much manufacturing left in this country. We traded those for shopping malls back in the 80s. So like we have nothing but like service oriented businesses that are all basically shut down. Integrators can luckily kind of maybe place some of their positions of being like essential or whatever, but I don't know. Like it's the people I talk to are like, yeah, we own a pizza business and we're basically serving the hospital pizza 24/7 and taking donations from the community to do that. And that's really all that they can do right now, because there's just we are frequenting our like local hotspots to get good tacos and that kind of thing, but there's only so much you can do when you're not going in and supporting the wait staff that's there. So man, I don't know, it's going to be a strange rollback into society when this thing supposedly gets over, or when people decide to kind of like, okay, it's time to go back and start doing things. I think it's going to be just a very different world that we're going to live in.
Yeah.
Every Netflix movie is like a trigger for me though. Like everything, like I'm watching a movie, I'm like, oh, why are they touching? Why are they in this crowd? No.
Yeah, it's like instinctual now. It's funny how quickly we evolve. I've got a guy coming tomorrow to look at something that's going wrong with my irrigation system, and I was literally on the phone with him today, and I'm like, this was just so awkward. I'm like, we're really trying to respect the social distancing thing. So like, I can just pay you over the phone, right? Like I'm basically saying like, I don't have to actually,
I don't want to see you,
see you or talk to you when you come here. Right. And just those things like that are like, I mean, imagine saying that like 2 months ago.
Imagine saying that to, imagine like us 2 years ago, or I guess a little bit further back, maybe like 6 years ago, having a client say that to us, right?
Right.
We would go back to the office and be like, this guy, he wants me to like go into his house and wear booties and a mask, and he's not going to be there. He's going to lock himself in the bedroom and then come out. I know he comes out and sprays everything down with Lysol after I leave. Like that's
right.
That's essentially where we are now. And like where we were kind of like, this is a wackadoo type thing. I did have one client that, I swear I worked for him for 2, 3, 4, probably at least 5 years, and never saw his wife. He always talked about her. I never saw her once because like, I think she had some kind of immune thing, and either she wasn't there and he scheduled us to come in around her, or she was locked in a room somewhere. It was just like, for a while we were like, does he really have a wife? Like, he always talks about her, but I've never seen her. Like, is this like, is this one of the situations where you're like going to open a refrigerator in the garage, or a freezer in the garage, and there's a body in there? Like, but now I totally get it. I totally understand it. Like, it's a super real concern for a lot of people. It has been for a lot of people in the past. And now I think we're all kind of getting a taste of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Anthony says, I have a zone in my yard that won't turn off if the water is on. And that's essentially exactly what the guy's coming to look at tomorrow.
It's funny, you guys are working on your sprinkler system. I have been, so my week 1 of doing odds and ends around the house was actually redoing about 50% of my sprinkler system. And I thought I'd gotten it all, but after 6 years of neglect, turns out there may be some pipes that go somewhere that I don't know where they go, that may be busted, and I'm still getting like mud in them. So more digging ahead. I'll put a picture of that.
Yeah, I haven't had to do any serious digging here. Although I will make one confession, and then we'll wrap up. We here in Colorado had a very early season, like a very early deep freeze in October, like way sooner than we would have expected. And I was out of town, and thankfully I didn't have a pipe freeze and burst, but my backflow preventer, I think it's called like the poppet bonnet. It's the piece on top, did freeze and break. So I had to have that repaired. Thankfully, cheap repair. But I had fired up my sprinklers a few weeks ago, and guess what? We had another freeze here in Colorado, and like a dummy, I forgot to drain my backflow preventer. So I'll be having my poppet bonnet replaced for the second time in about 6 months.
Well, there you go.
Good times.
I posted my little project there over in our HomeTech Live. Yeah,
I see.
I had been doing some digging, and this took place over the course of like a week. And my wife was like, "What is taking you so long?" I'm like, "I don't work on sprinklers. I don't know what I'm doing."
And have you seen the hole in our yard?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was one of many holes because I dug up all of the little heads that were there and replaced all of those. At least the ones I could find. But yeah, this has been my project for the past, it's still ongoing. I'd still have a couple of things I want to do. But I think the next thing we're going to do is rip out all the grass and reseed and start watering.
Fun.
Yep.
The sprinklers are one. I just don't know. There are lots of things I'll do myself. I don't know if that's one of them. My hat's off to you, Seth.
The parts are cheap. That's the whole thing. Like, it's all labor. And if you have a little bit of time, like with digging this hole, it was basically my daughter and I out there, and I put a beach umbrella up and we just went to town. And she had a little shovel and she put more dirt back in the hole than she took out. But like that was it. So
sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I will let you go. Have a good weekend. Stay well, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks everyone for listening.
You too. Have a good weekend.
All right. Take care.